So why am I switching to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K? I mean, just look at this shot. I think that's enough said. All right, that's a wrap, guys. Now, all jokes aside, there are a few good reasons why I'm switching to this camera as my primary video camera, and I'm gonna go ahead and explain a few of those now. So why the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K? So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with an overview of the camera. It's a 4K camera with a micro four thirds lens mount. And basically that means that you can adapt almost any lens to fit on this camera. The image quality is stunning. You get 4K raw video, you can do uncompressed, you can compress it down. You also get ProRes, 422, Proxy, LT, all of the goodies there. This camera runs about $1,300 new and includes DaVinci Resolve. The Studio Edition, which I believe runs about $300, so you could almost say it's a $1,000 4K camera. It's capable of shooting 120 frames at not just 1080 like when it was released, but with the new firmware update you can actually shoot 120 frames per second at 2.7K, and here's a clip of that now. I love the way that looks. I love the 120 frame per second look. Now don't get me wrong, you do have to know when to use it and how to use it. It's not for every shot, but I think that when you want it, it's awesome to have that available, especially at 2.7K. If you're editing on a 1080 timeline, you can actually use the 2.7K extra resolution to add a warp stabilizer and then change that warp stabilizer to adjust crop auto scale, and that's going to actually use that extra resolution to stabilize your image. So you could shoot handheld all day long if you plan on editing at 1080. Same goes with the 4K footage. If you're shooting anything at anywhere from 24 to 60 frames per second, I really don't see a reason you shouldn't shoot it at 4K. If you need to, you can use one of the compressed files. I'm actually using the 12:1 compression right now myself. I apologize for how I keep getting a little bit lower in the frame. Hopefully it still looks okay. That does bring me to one downside of this camera. It doesn't have the flippy screen. However, this is a cinema camera, and I would imagine most cinematographers aren't going to be complaining about that. I actually have an external monitor that I can hook up through the full-size HDMI port on the side of the camera. So that works out very nicely. So yeah, let's get into the reasons why I chose this camera. Mostly it has to do with cost. Cost is going to be the overarching reason that I chose this camera, because for the cost, I couldn't find any cameras with these kind of features and abilities anywhere near this price range. The other camera I heavily considered was the Sony a6400. After watching test footage of the a6400, even shooting at log versus the Blackmagic, I just couldn't go with the Sony. It was great footage and it looked good, and it would be a great vlogging camera. Probably a lot easier to use than this. That's just for vlogging. And I've been getting requests to do a lot of different commercial work. So I wanted something that would hold up for my commercial needs as well as extra vlogging, B-roll, things like that. So for the most part, I honestly probably won't vlog on this camera. I just wanted to try it out this time, and I really am pleased with how it looks. So cost is the overarching reason that I chose this camera. But there's a lot of factors within that, because you have to make sure that even though the cost is lower, you're still getting the features and things you need in a camera. The image quality in this camera is outstanding. You can tweak the crap out of these files. There's so much that you can do to this footage without breaking it. Another big reason that I love this camera is the low light capabilities. It's got dual native ISO, which means that it's native to both 400 and 3200 ISO. And when you're shooting in RAW, you can actually change the ISO in post. That native 3200 ISO means that you can open that aperture up wide in some dark situations and still get some great footage without too much grain. I'll show a clip here that I shot at 3200 ISO. It really looks so clean compared to anything else. I actually came from shooting on a Canon 60D, so this is a huge upgrade for me, because the low light capabilities on the Canon 60D were nowhere to be seen. Honestly, I didn't feel like I could shoot anywhere above 400 ISO on the Canon 60D without introducing a bunch of noise and making my footage look like crap. So here's a side-by-side comparison at ISO 3200 from my Canon 60D to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. I really think there's no comparison to be made there. It's really an unfair fight. So yeah, the low light capabilities on this camera are amazing and make for some really awesome footage, even in some really dark and naturally lit indoor situations. I'm really impressed by that. I love the ability to be able to tweak that footage and still make it look so good, even in a low light situation. It's not all good though. There are some downsides to this camera. I mean, at $1,300, you're not gonna get everything you could ever imagine in a camera, but you still get pretty much everything you could ask for at that price range. The things that I don't like about this camera are primarily the battery life. On these LPE6 batteries, you really only get about an hour of working time. I think somebody said about 20 minutes of actual record time. Honestly, I didn't notice it too much. I think about an hour of working time is correct, because I shot a commercial the other day, and in about 3 hours I used up about 3 batteries. So an hour per battery, not too bad. Still kind of a hassle if you've got it rigged up and you've got to get in there to change the batteries out. Some ways to get around this: you can buy a V-mount adapter, you can buy a rig with a V-mount adapter. Basically you can get some other options, and then you do have the AC power adapter that comes with the camera. So if you're in a situation where you can set up and just plug in, then you might as well do that just to save yourself the hassle. I don't love the Micro Four Thirds lens mount. I wish that Blackmagic had made an option for this camera where you could get it with the EF mount. They did put an EF mount on the 6K version of the camera, but that version costs almost twice as much at $2,500. So I think that it would have been nice if they had included an option to get the EF or the Micro Four Thirds. However, I was able to pick up the Viltrox Speed Booster for about 150 bucks, and I really don't think that it's bad at all. I mean, you guys tell me in the comments below what you think of the image quality, but I really haven't noticed a loss of image quality, and because that is a speed booster, I'm actually getting more light from my slower lenses. So yeah, I'm really impressed by that, honestly. And I haven't noticed a big issue other than you lose some autofocus capabilities, which again, this camera was made for cinematographers. Probably the last downside to this camera is that it really costs more than just the cost of the camera to get it up and running. You're gonna need a rig, probably a follow focus, maybe a lens adapter, just different things like that. The media for it is pretty pricey. You're gonna need either a CFast card, which runs you around $200, or you're gonna need some sort of USB-C solid state drive. I'm actually using the Samsung T5, and that's been working really nicely. It was about 90 bucks for a 500 gig drive, but that'll store most of the footage I need for 2 or 3 shoots before I have to dump it. It also has an SD card slot, but when you use SD cards, you're really limiting yourself on which type of footage you can capture. It's a very, very limited format on this camera. Another reason that this camera really costs you more than just the cost of the camera is because you are gonna spend more time in post adjusting this footage. As you'll see here, this is the raw footage. Now without any kind of color grade, it looks flat, it looks gray, not great. But all that said, I really do think the camera's worth it. Having this kind of image quality, having this kind of control over your videos is just incredible. For $1,300, I really couldn't find anything like it on the market. There were a couple cameras that almost competed with the Sony a6400, Canon M6 Mark II, potentially even the Zcam C2, I believe it was called. But really those cameras, when I looked at the features, looked at the image quality, they just couldn't hold up to the Blackmagic. Now with that image quality, I do have to spend more time in post, but that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make to get the best out of my videos. But yeah, all in all, it really is all worth it. If you're thinking about making the switch to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera from any kind of DSLR or mirrorless camera, anything like that, and have some questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll try to respond to those and let you know what I think about how the switch is going for me. If you want to see an update on how I like this camera later down the road, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I'm going to do an update probably in another few months after I've had some more time with the camera. But yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button for me. It really does help. And if the information was valuable to you, I would love it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button. I talk about photography, videography, all sorts of stuff on this channel, new videos every Thursday. So yeah, be sure you hit that subscribe button so you can check out all of those videos as soon as they come out. Alright guys, thanks for watching and have a great day.